I just installed Linux. The verdict is Linux is just not very good for PoE2 right now in its current form. I would say maybe for some people it's fine, but I would say you're probably gonna run into problems. For PoE1 it was pretty good, but since PoE2 is not very good right now for it, I reverted back to Windows. Since I did that, I lost all my settings, so I had to do them again. This is going to be a video about these settings because settings are pretty important, especially if you play SSF hardcore. You want to maximize your performance and minimize your latency, and obviously like visual clarity on the screen is pretty important. So in the display settings, I always run with DirectX 12. It's just way better than Vulkan, but it definitely works better on Windows. So I would recommend DirectX on Windows. It's kind of okay, I think, Vulkan for Linux performance are like good, and then sometimes when there's like some kind of particles, like everything goes really, really off, and it's kind of unplayable, especially in hardcore. Like if you lag a little bit, it's not a big deal if you're not playing hardcore, but you really don't want to lag when you play hardcore. Now, dynamic resolution, that's really good because exactly when there's like some particles that happens or like a lot of stuff happens, the resolution goes down and you're just not lagging as much. VSync off, all it does when you put it on is like it will look better, but you will have latency or frame latency and other stuff like that, so I would recommend always off. Window resolution, you should go native on whatever your display is. 1080p in my case. Now I have an RTX card, so I go NVIDIA DLSS. If you do not have that, I would just go billionaire for cheap upscaling. Now there's a max image quality. That's when you toggle the NVIDIA DLSS. I set it to ultra performance, obviously. I put everything at low. The lowest setting, always. My FPS, I always cap them at 60 for some reason. Just because it's nice that it's more stable. I want my frame to be stable, and I have a 120 Hz screen, so whenever like I'm under 120, I would see it, and I don't want to see that. I'd rather have a 60 frame rate that never really get below 60 than having like 120 that goes to 100 to 80 to 90. You can literally see the difference when you play, and that's not something you want. You want something as stable as possible. It's like a network, right? If you have 43 ms or 100 ms constant, there's not yeah, there's some difference, but it's not that bad. But if your network goes to 40 to 100 all the time, it would feel awful to play. So I view it the same way. That's how I set my frame rate. It's just better. Now triple buffering, I always put it off because I want the best latency as possible. There's no other thing about it. Dynamic cooling, apparently it's like possibly cause artifact or something. I enable it just in case. I'd rather have performance all the time, so I don't care if there's like an artifact if it makes me not lag, which makes me not die. So yeah. And multi-threading obviously always on. Okay, so here I always hide items. In SSF, it's very important to have a filter that hides items that you never want to see. If you're playing trade, sometimes you want to see even the rares that you would not want for your character because maybe they are valuable and you would be able to sell them, and then you'll be able to trade and get the item that you want. In SSF, all of that is kind of useless. What I do personally is like, let's say there's like a rare that I don't like. I make it so that it's all yellow. I don't even see the text, I don't see anything when I cannot use it. So that I know that that item is useless to me unless I want to vendor it and maybe make some regal ore. So hiding the items from your filters is really important in SSF. It just makes everything easier and faster. I use item key pickup to pick up with the mouse. It's just so much easier. Jump cutting restriction and equipping restrictions. It's kind of annoying to not be able to equip something just because you don't have the requirements. It's nice to be able to equip it knowing that your requirements are not okay and then fix it later. Now in interface, I remove quest tracking. I remove the fact that it filters this. Show clock is kind of nice. confined to window. If you're playing in windowless or something, that's very important. I play full screen, so it doesn't matter. Enable quest tracking. I really like to put it off because it takes a lot of space on your screen. When you play hardcore, you want to prioritize seeing whatever is happening. So if there's a quest that hides a monster or a projectile, well, you have more chance to die because you might not see it. So that's why I remove it. I also remove show corner map. The reason so is because I want to see as much as possible. So by removing that, it basically make me see here 100% everything that is happening. So I just like it much better that way. So landscape transparency. I removed this completely because it just hides more of the screen. And like I said before, I don't want to die because I don't see. Here, map transparency, I almost put it transparent, honestly. Or I don't use it at all. Just because it's fun to know where you're going, but at the same time, you'll be always looking at it. And if you always look at that and not look where you're actually moving your character, there's more chance that you die. The best trick is probably to remove that map. And in terms of map zoom, I really like it small and almost transparent like this. I don't really care if I don't really see it. It's very important to see whatever I'm doing. Screen shake, remove that. Camera rotation effects, I remove that also. It doesn't help with performance at all and it's annoying. Show life and mana levels. It's kind of important to see your life with numbers. I kind of like it. Your show flask buff, aura icon buff, also on. Hide my life mana reservation, that's whatever. You want a mini life bar above you. That's super important. Attack in place key, that's only good if you use the mouse instead of AWSD. I do not recommend using the mouse. If you play hardcore, you have to get used to AWSD. There's no circumstances that the mouse is superior. AWSD will always be better. For the cursor and stuff, that's whatever. What I like though is to put the chat super small. So as you can see here, the chat is really small and it barely covered the screen. That's how I like it. Now in the sound, I recommend playing with high because you're just gonna hear better everywhere, even enemies. So that's gonna help you survive. Yes, it uses a little bit more, CPU power if you go high, but honestly, I would only go like medium if my computer is really. What you can do is remove reverb. Reverb also cause a bit of performance issues. Not really, but a little bit. I usually play with ambient sound, which is nice, but you can also play without it. And when you put the music, the ambient sound, the dialogue, chat, and the cinematic volume to 0, they are literally disabled. So you're gaining performance. So I would say the best is master volume and sound effect volume because obviously you want to hear monsters, you want to hear yourself do the spells and stuff. Yes, you'll be less immersive, but if you prioritize being alive, this is probably the best setup. And now let's go into the input. My inputs are really weird, I think, for most people, but I think when you play with AWSD, you need to be, your setup need to be as good as possible and everything in reach easily with your fingers. So obviously AWSD to move. I have mouse 5, which is one of the button on my mouse for my life flask so that it's really fast to actually use it. I put 2 for my mana because it's not really like I don't need to click it that quick, but it's still close. Now for the skills, I use my skill here for F, E, C, V, and Q. The reason I do this is because it's all close to AWSD and they're all really easy to reach. I try to have the one that I use the most or the one that are really important, like V for example, is really close to my, it's either space or V, right? Because your thumb is gonna be in between. I would even say your thumb usually should rest between C, V, and space. That's the most like optimal way to play, I would say. Because you can roll by clicking on space, you can do V for your movement skill, which is really close. And then I have C for whatever spell that I like to use when I'm able to move like this. Because if you use F, let's say, that means that your D to move on this side, you're gonna take off your finger almost, unless you use your thumb, which you can. You can do that. But let's say Q. Q, you don't really have a finger that can press it while you're moving. So if you play with, so you know that Q is something that you don't necessarily need to move and that you might stop moving. So that's how I view it. Same thing for E. So they're usually like less important, like let's say a curse, something that you don't use a lot. I also have all my if I press control, it's the same keys. I do have an attack in place, but honestly, I never use it because it's so easy to just stop moving with AWSD. I have also have my toggle eye lighting. I put it like super far. It's P, so I never like click it by accident. You only have to click it once, and then everything's fine. Same thing for my overlay map. I used to put it on tab. I don't like to put it on tab, and I'll tell you this. This is actually like super important. Tab is a really bad one because if, for example, you press Alt for whatever reason, and then you press Tab by mistake, you're gonna Alt Tab, and that might kill you. So I would say remove overlay map from tab and put it to something else, anything else. Don't even use the tab button. Now for my character screen, I use T. Inventory, I use R. These are all like kind of close. Like I need to stop moving almost, either my W or my D. So these are things that like I can do when I'm standing, right? It's just better. Passive skill tree, I have Z. It's kind of hard to access it, but you can access it with your thumb, but it's not something you want to access a lot, so it's like perfect, kind of. There is like new settings with quick allocate. You can allocate strength, dexterity, and int. And for a skill panel, I have B, and create a portal, I have M. M is kind of far, but it's still kind of reachable easily. Otherwise, you can just literally click there, which I always do. And that's pretty much it for the settings. Peace out.